This is the most dangerous job in the world. Alaska. Crab fishermen must sign a death contract before each voyage. Even a $100,000 annual salary can't attract workers. Alaska. Crab fishermen usually have short careers because they have strict regulations on the timing and location of their catches. For example, in the Bering Sea, the fishing season is only in September and October. In Alaskan waters, fishing is only permitted in November and February. These times are either in winter or close to winter. The weather is extremely cold. Plus, being near the Arctic Circle, without proper protection, a person can freeze to death in just 30 minutes. Not only that, Alaska. Crab fishermen face risks far beyond the cold. In the dangerous Bering Sea, cold is often a secondary concern, because the greatest threat here is the raging waves. Even though crab fishing boats are very sturdy, it's still not enough. The waves here often reach over 10 meters. A moment of carelessness can result in being swept away by the waves. Even rescue efforts may be too late. Many crab fishermen lose their lives to the sea each year. Moreover, Alaskan crab fishermen catch highly valuable king crabs. King crabs are cold water crabs. They typically live in water temperatures of 25 C. If the ocean floor is that cold, imagine how freezing it must be above water. Calling it an icy world is no exaggeration. Even with proper warm clothing, the chilling wind still makes them shiver. To catch king crabs, one must battle extreme cold. Adding to that, the massive waves of the Bering Sea. Sometimes the seawater splashed onto the deck freezes instantly before it can be washed away. Crew members must clear the ice while continuing their fishing work. Otherwise, the ship's equipment could stop functioning properly. This can have a huge impact on fishing operations. Here, what captains fear most is not hearing that someone is injured or there are no king crabs in the crab trap, but someone has fallen overboard. Once you hear this news, you can be sure that someone has perished, and most likely, their body will never be found, because rescue is simply impossible. And there is only one situation that causes a crew member to fall overboard. That is being swept away by a giant wave. At that moment, let alone a rescue, even staying upright and protecting oneself is a challenge. To save someone would require superhuman strength, because the environment is harsh. Even experienced crab fishermen occasionally feel dizzy. Some even develop thalassophobia. In the treacherous Bering Sea, not only must they endure freezing temperatures and crashing waves, but also constant violent rocking. A single misstep could mean death. Even with a salary of tens of thousands per trip, few dare to take this job, because no one knows if they're earning a wage or selling their life. King crabs live at around 800 meters deep on the continental shelf. This means traditional fishing methods are ineffective, and large-scale dragging can easily kill the crabs. King crabs are a premium delicacy, and their price depends on whether they are alive or dead. Once a king crab dies, bacteria will rapidly multiply within hours. At that point, even if given away for free, nobody would want it. So catching king crabs often relies on a simple method: setting traps in a location and waiting patiently to see if a greedy king crab wanders into the trap. Regardless of the type of crab fishing boat, it always carries a large number of traps before setting sail. To set up traps everywhere, but this is exhausting for the crew. Once the work starts, they often have to work overnight, 24 hours a day without rest. A ship once set a record, catching about $500,000 worth of king crabs in a single day, converted into earnings. Each hour brings in about $20,000. That's why these king crabs are also called red gold cans by crab fishers, because this job is so profitable. If you're lucky, you can buy a house in just 1 month. This is why king crab fishing fleets only work for 4 months a year, yet still support their families. Alaskan crab fishermen are said to have the most dangerous job in the world. Each time they go out to sea, they must carry firearms. As one of the most dangerous jobs, Alaskan crab fishermen not only face the extreme cold and storms of the Bering Sea and Alaskan waters, but also the unpredictability of human nature, because wherever there are people, there is conflict. So every time they set sail, captains bring a certain amount of firearms and ammunition. Some more extreme fleets even arm their crew members. Of course, as laws have improved. Now, in Alaska, crab fishermen rarely engage in shootouts, but they still carry guns and ammunition, not because of the risk of pirates, because given how dangerous the Bering Sea is, not even pirates have, not even dogs want to come here. They carry guns mostly to vent their anger, because in the Alaskan crabbing world, there's an unwritten rule. All crabbing boats must find their own crab clusters. But some people don't play fair. They steal other people's hard work, because it's just too easy to do. And usually, crab pots are set out in large batches. Once you finish placing them here, you go elsewhere. That movement creates a time gap, and this gives crab poachers an opportunity. Once these these people are caught, captains immediately enter revenge mode. Of course, everything needs a justifiable reason. Before taking action, they always find an excuse. Typically, ship. The captain would take out a bottle from somewhere, of ashes, and scatter some of the ashes into the sea, holding a sea memorial for friends or former crew members. During this sea memorial, where the bullets will land, only the gun and the one aiming know. If there are rogue crab fishing boats around, the bullets usually land near the opposing crab fishing boats. If they are not nearby, the venting target would be the buoys placed by them. After venting their anchor, the crew would haul up the opponent's crab traps, slash them open, and then put them back as they were. The purpose of this is to tell them, I have found you. If you still want trouble, we don't mind having another sea battle. As for whether the bullets miss their target, no one knows. After all, those who dare to fish for crabs in the Bering Sea during winter are not all law-abiding citizens. They have many ways to legally and reasonably make someone unable to survive here. There is no doubt about this, because many of the rules here are unwritten rules. Once someone violates them, the rest will no longer abide by them for that person. It means an entire industry excluding one person or one fleet. Almost no one can withstand such pressure. Moreover, dealing with the dangerous environment and weather of the Bering Sea is already exhausting enough. If you also have to deal with human schemes and intrigues, going out to sea, forget making money. Not losing money would already be a blessing. After all, although the most dangerous thing here is human nature, the real killer is still the environment. After all, the extreme cold and the frequent 3-5 meter waves is what truly makes the crew members anxious. Sometimes they need to deploy or catch crabs in the midst of storms. The cages can often lead to danger if not handled carefully. And here, luck isn't always on their side. Sometimes just as they arrive at the fishing spot, they find it has already been occupied. Or if it's not occupied, before they reach the best fishing spot, the weather suddenly turns bad. For safety reasons, they can only deploy some of the crab traps to ensure the ship can pass safely. And the return time must also be carefully considered, because sometimes just a slight delay can mean several more days at sea. Many crab fishing boats have faced this issue. If the ship doesn't dock and unload as scheduled, it has to travel far to another port to unload. This is something that every fishing fleet must go through. If they haven't experienced it, it just means the fishing time for the fleet isn't long enough. Why are king crabs so expensive? After watching their fishing process, you will understand. Living off the mountains, living off the waters, the fishermen near Alaska rely on the king crabs from the Alaskan and Bering Sea to make their fortune. However, the process of catching king crabs is not only extremely dangerous, but also very demanding. First, there's the deployment of the traps. Each fleet carries hundreds of traps when they set out to sea. The crew needs to throw baited crab traps, one by one, into the sea, and keep records. Then they wait on the ship for a few hours, before returning to check if the traps have any catch. Usually, before the official crab fishing begins, they first deploy a test batch of traps. After some time has passed, the Northwest will head to these traps one by one. When the time is about right, the Northwest will head to these crab traps one by one. They will retrieve these traps one by one. Then, based on the situation, they will decide whether to fish for king crabs in this area. Not all the king crabs in these traps can be taken back. Only those that meet the standards can be kept. Otherwise, if caught, the fleet will face hefty fines. To avoid this risk, the fleet's catch size must exceed the regulated size slightly. This is to prevent any unclear explanations. Once things get busy, the entire fleet will be extremely busy. Sometimes they even work non-stop for a full day and night. They are either working or on their way to work. Although it's exhausting, just to glance at their pay makes the crew feel that working hard here is worth it. Why is that? Someone calculated that, even with the income of an ordinary crab fishing boat, working for 10 years, and not spending recklessly, the money earned would be enough to retire. If they want to live more comfortably later, they only need to work hard for 20 years. That's why there are rarely elderly people in crab fishing boats, and even those in their 40s are uncommon. When retrieving the crab traps, they need to be extremely careful. Crabs have a unique physiology. After death, bacteria multiply rapidly within 4 hours. Even if preserved with ice, they cannot remain fresh. Therefore, the price difference between live and dead crabs is huge, especially for king crabs. So, when retrieving the traps, they must be very careful. They can't just dump them into the hole like ordinary fishing boats. Instead, they use a metal container to carefully carry them, making sure the crabs don't accidentally die. After all, these are not just ordinary fish. They are valuable king crabs, and every single one matters. The crew handles them with utmost care, ensuring they remain alive and fresh. This is why the process is so meticulous. They are treated like royalty, and must be carefully tended to. not enough to just retrieve and sort them. The selected king crabs are placed in cold water tanks on the ship to keep them alive until the ship docks for unloading. After all, only live king crabs are valued. Dead king crabs are practically worthless. Moreover, each ship has a quota for the number of king crabs they can catch each year. Once the quota is reached, they can no longer continue fishing, or they will face hefty fines. But don't worry. Usually, it's rare to hit the quota right away. If that happens, the crew would be overjoyed because they wouldn't have to go out to sea anymore. It's like getting an unexpected vacation. This is no joke. There was once a very lucky fleet that caught $500,000 worth of king crabs in just 30 hours, completing their monthly quota. However, this was a small boat, not very large in size. If it were a large crab fishing boat, this wouldn't happen, because not only are their ships bigger, but they also have higher annual quotas. Of course, the crew's wages are also higher. On the return trip, the crew is very excited. But for the captain, the journey isn't over yet. Only when they dock and open the deck, seeing a bunch of lively king crabs, does it truly end. If they can't bring the king crabs back alive, the trip is almost a waste. Forget making money. A boat full of dead crabs would bankrupt the captain.